Hello, everybody out in the world of the internet. This is Monday Nights Get Nuked. I'm Thirsty and I'll be PMing tonight. Before we start, there are a few little rules for chat. Do not be a tool about someone's race. Do not be a tool about someone's orientation. Do not be a tool. Just don't. Don't do it.
Or a screwdriver.
Or a screwdriver. Any other kind of implement. Just don't. Right. We are here today to enjoy the best of drunken debauchery and filth in the world that is the Wet Accessolation. So we should be enjoying our lovely second session of Rotten under Ooze Town. So, without further ado, we shall go to the players. Who are you people? Start with Spanners.
Hello, I am Spanners, and I am playing Dimmy. She would have spent some time with the Salties, and has been abandoned, and appeared to quite enjoy upsetting people last time by poking them in the knees with nails. And we discovered last time that she's a tiny bit deaf.
Approximately how deaf would you say?
I'd say about 70%. Hearing loss has gone,
7 out of 10 deafness.
7 out of 10 deafness.
Alright. And this came to light how?
So this happened because with her time at with the Salties, she was helping them to develop a new boomstick. She quite likes boomsticks, but doesn't like them anymore because she was using some WD-L0 to grease up the inside of this particular boomstick. And unfortunately it went bang instead of boom, and so did her eardrums. But she didn't let on. She doesn't like telling people. And unfortunately that led to her being shouted to duck. Didn't duck. Something hit her on the back of the head, and she woke up on land.
Ooh. Right. That's nice. That's proper. I like it when we get a little bit of backstory going in the player intros. So next is Lilth. Who will you be playing?
I'm Lilth, and I will be playing Anita Winfield. I'd still have to check the name.
You've only used it like 3 times.
It's true.
Can you tell us a little about Anita?
She is a rotter. She might just dabble in a little bit of drug dealing, maybe, and a bit of doctoring. A little bit.
We've literally witnessed this. So we've only known her a day. Is it dabbling, or is this like the main thrust of her general sort of activity?
It might be the main thrust. It might be.
Okay. Now, fellas, we know what to expect. All right. So, young Ivor, who will you be playing? What do they do?
Well, tonight I'll be playing Zeke on his never-ending quest to track down his scuzzle, Herbert, alongside Herbert's brother Jerry.
Excellent. So, we found ourselves at the end of last session, standing in a brothel of all places. A wonderful place for all you wonderful, upstanding individuals. A brothel on an old container ship that's in a silted up port channel, called Madame Nuke's Knocking Shop. And yes, I did realise in the intermediate into the week between last session and this one, knocking ship would have been way funnier. But no, it was made up on the spot, and it sounded funny in my head. So, right. You are standing on Madame Nuke's Knocking Shop. You have one of the staff, shall we say, invited you to look over the side with some alarm, and you notice body parts floating down the river, and Timmy recognised one of them.
I did, and I can definitely remember his name.
Well, I can remember his name because it's the name of my character from last campaign. Had the same name, Well, it was the first draft of my previous character. It was Roger.
I was going to say that wasn't your name.
No, my previous character's initial name was going to be Roger Rupert Reese. Because I like that. And it worked for Marvel, so fuck it. Anyway, so you saw Roger the Head.
That's right.
As my notes say. I assume at some point he was more than a head.
I think he is more than a head at the minute, isn't he? He was just dismembered.
Well, there's no saying that all the other parts belong to him. They might. I don't know. Did you recognise the other parts?
I'm going to decline to answer that one.
Okay then. So, there you stand. I believe it was dusk, and you just lit a fire on the floor with assorted bullcrap you pulled out of mattresses. Someone had come along and lit an oil drum, like, next to you, like, what are you doing? And then while they were standing there, like, enjoying the heat, had noticed this in the river. So yes, the camera pulls back in, and we behold our three intrepid Scan standing in their purloined brothel lodgings that they got for free after lying to people. Yeah. Yes, let it not be forgotten that last session, Anita lied to people who need medicine. Who need medicine to stay clear of, unpleasant and possibly life-threatening STDs. She just sold them mystery pills and told them to throw them in their water supply.
They'll be fine.
Yeah, they'll probably be fine. It won't help.
It might help.
It's like, here, throw these 3 effervescent cocodamol into your water supply. It won't help with STDs, but it'll make it
It'll stop the pain.
I don't know. It depends how big their water supply is.
That's true.
If we're talking like a goddamn container ship tank, it's like boom.
Yeah, no good.
It will be beautiful for a little while as they fizz around on the surface. Anyway, so we're panning back in. I believe the last thing that someone said was, it's Roger!
That's about right.
Yeah.
Do we want a reenactment?
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. I believe it went along the lines of, "That's Roger!"
Who's Roger?
Anyone going to help? Well, it appears to be a head now. He was, I guess, a salty. He was on my ship, but he was only a young'un.
How far down do we reckon that the side of the ship is to the water that this head is floating in?
Well, you're on a lightly laden container ship, so probably like 15, 20 feet down. You're standing very high in a silted up harbour.
So we're not going to be able to
fish him out with any ease.
I don't know. Do any of you have a handy 10-foot pole with a further 10 foot of rope? I can answer that question, actually.
Is the answer yes?
The answer is in your dreams, sunshine.
Which
there is water
way
in this channel, so
which way is the river flowing? Is this head flowing inland or out to sea?
it's flowing out to sea.
Okay. So if there are more body parts floating with Roger, it would either be really sensible or really not very sensible to kind of find out where they came from.
Yeah, is there any way of figuring out roughly where the start of this trail of body parts begins?
Well, as I actually have it written in here in my notes, the body parts actually bobbed up from underwater, sort of at roughly this point in the river. So wherever they came from, it was either recently enough that they still sank under their own weight to pop up later, or they might have been down there for a while, decomposed to the point where they float. But you could always wander upriver and have a look.
And there wouldn't be any sort of underground channels of water.
It's a possibility. Not that you know of, sort of thing. You know.
Okay.
Unless one of you is suddenly going to spring on me that, you know, you have an in-depth knowledge of underground caverns that may or may not be filled with water in the River Ooze Valley.
No.
Yeah.
Unlikely.
I don't think I can swing that one, unfortunately.
Okay, can squirrels divide water?
Did you seriously just ask if Jerry was Squirrel Moses?
Yes. No, I didn't say he could walk on water. I could say he could use them like a divining rod. Just like hold the two
Oh,
heads.
divine water. I think it's a divide. I was like,
Divide.
Jerry,
Yes.
do your thing! Stand aside, great river.
That could be
Stroll
really
across the
useful.
riverbed. Somewhat point beyond Jerry.
Oh, shame. What's the light situation like right now? Would it be...
The light situation, if you recall, is like night. It is basically you can only see these body parts by the lights of by the very bright lights mounted on this floating brothel.
So it'd be fairly safe for me to say, probably shouldn't head up river just yet to find out what's going on here. Might be a job for tomorrow when we can see.
Yeah. Or you could always attempt to find. There are people standing around. You could always ask them for help to get these things out of the water now. I don't know. Do you want to retrieve Roger's head? Or are you happy to just let it float on downstream? There is an enclave of salties in the town who might, appreciate him being returned.
There is, but I don't know how they'll appreciate us returning just his head.
Hmm.
And whether they might see that as a bit of a slight. Or a threat.
If you just chuck it over the wall with a note on it saying "I found this," then they might be a little touchy. But if you turn up and you give the name of the ship that you were sailing on, and you know that you arrived with this guy, or you know that he was around when you arrived, and you try and find his shipmates, and you tell them what happened to their friend who wouldn't have left the Salties enclave normally. They're probably looking for their missing friend. They might reward you. It might be a good in for that, that side door into the place you want to go. It's near there.
Anita's going to turn and look at the others or the staff and just ask if is there anything we can use to try and get this head out? Have you got any nets or anything?
There was, I suppose, there was actually a fella standing near, wasn't there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, of course we've got a net. And people fall off this fucking thing all the time. How do you think that he gestures round and it's he's got a huge array of flotsam attached to the outside of his container that he lives in. It's all sorts of floating rubbish. He's made a little outhouse out of driftwood. Yeah, it's I made my man cave.
Is there any chance where you can help us fish this head out of this river? Because my friend here knew him.
I suppose. I don't really want to get.
You don't have to get too close.
Yeah.
Fine, we'll clean it.
All right, you better hurry up. It's about to float away.
Yeah, well,
He hands you a pool skimmer with a very, very long pole on it.
Can I attempt to fish the head out by taking the pool skimmer and going over the side with it?
I think this might be a group effort. You're swinging essentially what is a 20-foot long scaffolding pole with a flimsy plastic net on the end.
Right then, one leg each.
Yeah.
Right? How exactly are the three of you attempting to anchor this enormously long pole? Like, are you just
I
going to
think we
pick
were
the
gonna go for
heaviest looking
Grateful's
one of you
ignorance, weren't
and
we?
then like try and
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
I reckon.
Yeah, I reckon that would probably fall into Zeke's remit as
That's the big burly
bulkiest.
northern bloke.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
pretty much.
He's helping these soft southerners. Right. Yeah. So Zeke, how do you go about this? This pole is very heavy. It is it's a pool skimmer jammed into a scaffolding pole. So it's a proper thick like length of steel.
I mean, I've been out the wilds before. I assume that moving trees out of paths wouldn't be too far out of my remit.
No, I'm
So-
just saying it's not going to be easy.
Yeah,
And you're holding one end of something 20 feet long and attempting to pick something up out of water with it. Against the drag of the water.
I will go to as far down the ship as I can along the waterway and sort of place it in there and try and judge it as it comes down the river towards the net.
Okay. So yeah, you go to the side of the boat, like almost at the back. I mean, you are at the back end of this boat. You have to get almost to the back, where it starts to bow back in, and you have to lean out over the side because this thing is coming past at a fair old rate. And at which point you realise there's just no more left. You're holding this thing, holding this thing is 20 feet down, the net is in the water, but your arms are fully extended, you're hanging out over the side. You've got your feet on the rails, your knees, like your thigh is like braced against the top rail. You're fishing for marlin, and they're winning.
I think the response would be, someone quick grab me by the ankles as I lean out further.
Right, who does that?
I'll give it a go.
Yeah, I'm going to
I'm
dive
not
for the other foot.
strongest
You're
person.
taking a foot each.
Yeah.
No one's going to grab the belt. No one's going to grab his coat.
I
You know.
might grab his belt. I'll grab his belt.
Yeah, back of the belt is always a good
Yeah.
one. You're going to do this alone, you two?
I'm going to look at the others for
Yeah.
bystanders for a bit of help.
Okay, yeah. Fine, but we keep fishing until we got all the bits, and I get to keep what's in his pockets.
Yeah, fair enough.
Cool. And yeah, the fairly weedy bloke who lit the fire and pointed this out, he comes along and he places his hands on Zeke's belt, but on the side next to his pockets, sort of thing. Like, so he's not in the way. He's just like making sure he doesn't like slip over the back.
Okay. And I reach out further to try and fish this thing, sort of head now fully down alongside the side of the boat, arms. What would be above my head were I not dangling?
Okay. This will require a test of some sort. However, first, I need a test from Jim, the NPC. Oh, well, actually, no. From Frank, the NPC, and our two lovely ladies, to make sure they don't just drop you on your head. Admittedly, in like silty mud, but 20 feet into silty mud upside down.
What's stat? On
Strength.
those, if it's
Go strength.
19.
Okay. Spanners?
12.
12. Natural.
No, with strength.
Okay, yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. The little guy seems to sort of buckle very quickly. He clearly wasn't ready for Zeke's weight at all. He's still holding on. He's just sort of like pulled over the railing almost himself. He manages to hold on, but he's not helping you much. He's mainly stopping himself falling over the side of a boat. Anita, beyond all expectations, just stands there like a fucking statue. one hand on belt, one hand on ankle. It's just like, get him. We got this. And Timmy stands there, but is distracted for a moment. She can feel the pulse under her hand and his ankle, and she's just like, it really easy to cut that. I never thought of that one before. But yeah, similarly, doesn't drop him, but isn't helping as much as he might have wanted. Yeah. Zeke notably falls he fall like another foot over the railing, and then stop solid. I'm going to need some manner of dexterity to try and hook this thing. Cause you're basically playing hook a duck with something 15 feet away in a fast-moving river.
Okay. Let's find out. A 4 plus 3, 4, a 7.
Yeah. On a 7, you catch an arm. The head floats serenely past. You catch an arm, which is a start, I suppose. If you ditch the arm quick, you might be able to hit another try at the head, but the bloke who's trying to anchor you won't be too happy.
Yeah, why not? I will swing wildly with this scaffold pole and net. Just sort of the full overarm swing to free this arm, and then on the return, try and nab the head.
Okay. Ladies, can I get a physical endurance from you two to hold it? Because this guy is the dude you're currently like suspending off the side of essentially what is a building. Has just decided to jerk violently in your hands, and go for a second cast with his fucking enormous fishing stick.
14.
14. Okay.
8.
Okay. Anita's done. Anita is done. As done as done. You feel her hand start to shake on your leg. The hand on the belt just loses purchase entirely. You fall like another foot, and the hands meet sort of frenziedly on your boot. You can feel the shaking tension. Your other leg, however, stays in exactly the same place, solid as a rock, and you swing slightly. It actually helps your scooping motion slightly, but you don't feel safe. Give me your roll, your second try.
For my second try, 10
total or on the dice?
total.
Okay. On a 10, screw it. You get the head. You manage to grab the head with the stick. You manage to pull it back towards the boat, and you manage to pick it up out of the water, and then the head of the net hits the silt around the boat, and the pool skimmer just falls out the pole. It's safe, but you haven't got it. You can see it.
Sort of from the still upside down ankle, full body assumedly now off the side of this rail.
Yeah, you're literally being dangled off of a boat by your ankles.
Just sort of look down and then reach backwards with one hand and give the thumbs up.
Unfortunately, you reaching back with one hand is not showing over the side of a boat. You can reach back all you want, but your arm is not 5 feet long.
No, it is not.
So non-verbal things aren't really going to work at this point. Help! I'm falling off a boat. On the other hand,
About sending small retrieval animals to go and get.
I mean, that's what it's there for. He's in my backpack currently, isn't he? Or is he?
He was asleep in your backpack. I don't know where
He
he
then
went.
woke up when I whistled to him, and he
He's
disappeared
only-
off into the ether.
then he's only a couple of meters away. You know, he is but moments away, and you do have a 20-foot pole for him to run down.
Yeah, I think
you have like a 10-foot pole for him to run down, but he can jump 10. He can jump like 5 foot. Who cares? Squirrel.
yeah. I think I'll go with
5 feet onto mud is probably going to be fine.
I think I'll go with the Jerry. Come fetch this for me.
Okay. Being that we codified how this will work. Yeah. Okay. Jerry got a 4, so that does total to a 10. He is very, very good at finding things. So, yeah, Jerry runs down you, which tickles like hell. He Right, can I get let's pass? Roll off D4.
Four.
Okay. And ladies, I get a D4 from yourselves.
Yes.
3.
2.
Poor Timmy. Timmy just cannot deal with how ticklish a squirrel running over her makes her. So I'm gonna need a mental endurance, or you're gonna crack up laughing and drop him off the side of a boat.
Right then. Oh shit. 4.
Yeah,
In total?
yeah. You collapse laughing as Jerry runs up the back of your neck. He runs up your leg, under your top, runs up your back, out your neck, jumps down your arm. You just dissolve into a pile of laughing idiot. And just give me a reflex. Do you manage to let go?
That's a 6.
No, Anisha does not manage to let go. So yeah, Timmy dissolves into laughter. Anita gets her arms painfully slammed down against the rim of the boat, the side of the boat for 4 damage. But let's go. Most notably, this is why you don't take I don't know what Zeke weighs, but I imagine it's a number of stone, upward of 10.
In the region of maybe 85 kilograms or so.
Yeah, not something you want slamming onto your forearms at short notice. So yeah, you avoid a broken arm by letting go. But Jerry and Zeke sail united once again towards the mud, the horrible, stinking, diesel-infused mud of the Ooze. Oh. Do you wish to try and do anything at all? You could, this is the moment. Just tell me, is there anything you're going to try and do in this moment?
Can I aim to jam the 10-foot pole I have in hand into the mud and then land on the other side of this river?
You can try.
I'm going to use legendary point for this.
You can try.
Just want to roll a straight 12 or with dex?
With strength, I think, because you actually have to keep holding onto this thing once you ram it into the ground.
Okay. I don't think that makes too much difference. No, it's still a 3. That's a 10. With a legendary points to reroll, isn't it?
No, it's +2.
No. Oh, +2. So 10 total, 12.
Yeah. You get a 12. You manage to ram this 10-foot steel pole into the ground as you fall into the silty mud. the soft, silty mud, the many feet of soft, silty mud, and it just keeps going and going and going, and it stops just as your hand hits the mud at the other end of this 10-foot pole. And you hit this mud. It's soft. It's horrible stuff. If you've ever walked down a riverbank and ended up in the soft, silty filth, it's disgusting. You hit it with your face and shoulder, and your forearm, your wrist of one hand, and you sink like 2 feet into the mud under the force of the impact. It goes into your face, it goes in your eyes, it goes up your nose, it gets in your mouth, it's in your hair, it's in your ears, it forces its way inside your clothes. It's cold, it's soft, it's disgusting. And then the force of your legs going over catapults you back out of the mud, and you just sit there in the shallows of the river. And then Jerry hops back up onto your shoulder and shakes. You're now sitting bemused in a river.
We've not done that before, have we, boy? Turning to Jerry, still in relatively high spirits as I came out of this uninjured for the most part.
You haven't tried to move yet, but yeah.
No. Other than the filth now coating me, as far as I can tell, I am okay-ish. So, still in good spirits. It's a case of not done that before, have we, Jerry? And then I reach over for the head.
Yeah, you easily manage to. You have to slide on your belly over the mud a bit. You forded rivers enough to realise that standing up in this is probably a bad idea. So you slide on your belly along for a bit, and you grab this head, and put it under your arm like a rugby ball. You manage to edge your way back over to where the jetties stand, and some thoughtful soul throws you down like a rope ladder. Just like, and you notice that he's wearing, I don't want to say uniform, but he's wearing garments similar to those of Gary and Mary, the bouncers you saw at the ramp into the knocking shop.
Okay.
He goes, "Hello, how'd you end up down there? You dozy bastard! Get up here!"
So, after I make my way up this this rope ladder, hopefully not finding anything broken as I try and ascend, I displayed it in the head and was like, "Was fishing for this, wasn't I?"
You're a weird one, you are. What you doing with that? In a brothel? In fact,
Well,
I don't want to know. That's your business. Just
belongs to a friend of mine.
No, not listening. No. And he just walks away. He pulls up the rope ladder. You get the impression this is probably his actual job, collecting people who've fallen off the side of the brothel. And he it's somewhere between a storm and a slink. He's definitely moving away from you, and he doesn't want to be seen near you. You're a weird, stinking, mud-covered fellow carrying a head and saying you took it into the brothel with you. Nah.
I shout after him as he goes, "Thanks for the rope ladder. Real glad that I didn't have to climb right out there."
Anytime.
And then I'll return to the other two with the head.
Yeah, you get back to the ramp into the knocking shop, and Mary, the giant poacher, just looks from the staff area where she last saw you leave back to What?
Some fishing got out of hand. Don't worry about it.
That's a head.
Aye.
Why have you got a head? Why do you have two
Fishing.
heads? He's got two heads. You've got four heads. What do you call four heads when you've got four heads? Why are you here?
Was here to stay the night with my friends. You remember Anita, don't you? Sorted the thing out.
Oh, the itch.
Yeah, that's the
Come
one.
on in. And once again, she cuffs Gary to go and show you back to where you go, and keep you away from the customers because they don't want to know what someone who stinks of shit and is covered in brown filth carrying a dismembered head is up to, and they don't want to give anyone ideas. So yeah, Gary's
Special services.
Come on through. If you remember, Gary has a voice like this. Come on in. Come on.
I'll follow Gary back to the others.
And they throw something very much like a branded towel over you, but it's made of like rough canvas, and in places it's stapled together. It's in no way pleasant. You get the impression they just use this to, like, when there's a murder here or something, to hide people. It's a canvas divider. They throw it over you like a towel. Kind of like one of those people who's like walking out of a murder trial, and they hide you. Everyone's like, a few of the drunken idiots are like, "Oh, it's a ghost. Oh, what's that?" And they see the mud, and they're like, "Someone fell off the side. What a wanker." But generally, everyone's entirely more engrossed in what they're doing at a brothel at night. So but some people didn't last that long. Anyway, so yes, you're back at your. Gary takes you back to his house, where you will now be sleeping in his bed, covered in filth and silt. Thanks. Right, so you guys should probably lay low for the rest of the night, because we're getting questions about you.
Is there any way I can wash this off?
Yeah.
Would you
And he
show me
leaves.
that?
He clearly is very uncomfortable in your presence. You stink. Actively stink of rot and filth.
I think we'd then hand the head over to Timmy and go, "I think this belongs to you." And then wander off and start opening doors at random to try and find a shower or a bathing area.
Okay. So yeah, you wander off at random apparently. Is anyone going to follow this canvas shrouded fool as he wanders off through the staff area of this brothel where he's been allowed gratis accommodation with no questions asked so far, annoying the staff?
So I'm going to take the head and go and sit down with it, and just start muttering to Roger, and just sort of having a one-sided conversation with him. "You silly git! How did you get yourself killed?" And as I'm having this conversation, I'm going to be like plaiting his hair where like bits have fallen out, and just kind of tidying him up a little bit. And yeah, just generally talking to my dismembered head.
Okay, you're going to be pulling a Senwa. Okay, so yeah, you sit there talking to your dismembered head. Do you? I don't want to say do you investigate the head? Do you examine it at all while you're doing this, or are you just fixing his hair and telling him off for being dead?
I am looking to see potentially if there is a reason why his head is no longer attached to his body, and whether he had potentially had any additional injuries.
Well, a very, very cursory glance will show you that he has a number of large open wounds along like the back of his head and the top of his neck.
Okay.
But just at a cursory, you're just like, it's fucking up his hair. How dare they? And you proceed to braid his hair back over it so that you can't see it anymore.
Okay, before I braid it, do I notice anything inside the wounds?
Mainly brain, river water, mud, damaged tissue, but no, nothing.
And it's not obvious what's caused it?
No, they are big, wide, open wounds. So,
okay.
You're more of a small stabbing wounds and probing sharp implements sort of gal. Yeah.
Okay. Any signs of torture?
There are definitely signs of recent trauma. Even aside from the massive head traumas that probably did whatever they did. Now, there are bruises, there's scratches, but there's no. You're dealing with a head and a bit of neck. If you're going to torture someone, you don't start with the head. That's just bad practice.
Yeah.
If you really want to dig into it, you do have a torture skill, do you not?
I do.
You could use your critical eye and your knowledge of torture to try and work this out. Also, you can roll a dice. Yay, dice roll.
I could roll a dice, yes. So I think I shall use my torture skill to see if I can see any obvious signs that he has been tortured before being beheaded.
Okay.
I can't actually remember where we are. There we go. Ooh. Oh, I'll take a 16.
16. As you take a closer look for signs of like painful minor injuries, the sort that you might use to encourage someone to do something, say like come on land when their entire culture says you never should, or disappear when all of your loyalties are to your boat. You notice that his earlobes have been quite thoroughly mangled. Not like the skin hasn't been broken, but the cartilage has been damaged quite badly on his ears. He's had the I can't remember what the hell it's called. The central part of his nose has been pierced recently with something blunt. Nothing that would stop him working, or sort of going about a task, but it would definitely hurt a lot.
So sort of like the septum piercing for a bull.
More along the lines of if you took a darning needle and rammed it straight up until it scraped the inside of the nose bone.
Nice.
Someone's been stabbing his sinuses with knitting needles. But yeah, he's definitely been hurt, but you don't get the impression that whoever was this careful not to make him die beforehand. It's odd if they hacked him to death.
Okay.
Unless, of course, this happened before. He might just have a shitty captain. He might have committed a crime.
But no.
But yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So yes. Signs of torture.
Signs of torture. I shall continue
Skills
plaiting
torture,
his head
yeah.
back.
Yes. So, you are plaiting his head. Anita is doing what?
Anita's going to run after Zeke and tell him to stop raiding people's rooms, and then see if she can find someone to find a shower or bathing facilities for him.
Okay.
While
are you
trying
do that
not to-
immediately, or are you going to watch what's happening with his head first?
No, she's going to deal with Zeke first.
Okay, yeah, so you head out of the little storage container, knowing full well that if you sit inside and try and ask Timmy questions in this shitty lighting, she won't know what you're saying anyway. So you you go outside and try and follow Zeke. Zeke is not hard to spot. He's only made it like 10 feet. You know, trudging through that slime has clearly slowed him down a fair bit. And he's basically just trying to kick in the first door, which is a hastily constructed wooden assemblage on one of the containers nearby. His foot just glances off. It's covered in slippery mud. But the door does open, and inside is a rather portly gent with a very red face. What the bloody hell are you doing here? Don't you know? I need to get my sleep.
I was told there was showers somewhere around here, somewhere I could get a bath, and then I then display my full mud-covered self to him.
Don't bring that in here. Oh, God, you stink, man. Oh, over there, go over there. The wooden thing. He points at the outhouse that was pointed out to the ladies earlier.
Okay.
He slams the door, and you hear the sound of retching from within. But you know, the theatrical retching of someone who's a little overwrought, rather than oh bloody hell, Jesus. Not the retching of someone who's actively going to vomit, someone who's milking it a bit. So yes, there is an outhouse made of driftwood next to a container very close to where you dangled off the edge.
Okay. I suppose I'd turn to Jerry as I headed in that direction and say, nice trap that, wasn't it?
Yeah. One of Jerry's heads nods and the other one shakes.
And then I'll open the outhouse door. There's no knocking involved, it's just door open.
Yeah, there's the door such as it is more sort of loose planks, and rather than a handle, there's just a hole that's been cut. It's just above hip height, so you could kind of see if someone was in there, but you wouldn't necessarily see anything particularly, you know. So you put your hand through it and just pull the door open, and inside you see a bucket on the floor and a bucket on a shelf at the top. And you see a little hole in the ceiling.
Okay. I am going to inspect the buckets on the shelf.
Okay. The bucket on the shelf is just under the hole in the ceiling. There appears to be a string hanging off it, like a really cheap piece of, like the Sizol yellow string that people get sold to go camping. The stuff that frays all over the place and leave little pieces of like yellow plastic on things at campsites. It's got like a bit of blue tape around the edge of it so you can see it when you close the door because it's a bit dark. Yeah. As you kind of give it an experimental tug, like a little one, the bucket rocks slightly. Like it's clearly on some sort of tipping mechanism.
Okay. And do I hear anything inside?
Yeah. You hear some sloshing.
I don't trust this bucket, but I've got no reason to Zeke has no reason to mistrust this bucket. He's been told that there are bathing facilities here. Therefore, I suppose
Is Zeke going to attempt to use this bathing facility fully clothed?
I think the jacket would come off, but like the rest of everything else is still full of mud.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So you're just gonna strip off your outer coat and essentially step into the shower.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough. Go for it. Yeah. So you step on in. You tug the piece of string, and you hear a sort of click as the bucket moves over sort of another notch. There's clearly some sort of ratcheting system because they don't want to just soak everyone and leave the thing empty all the time. And it notches over another thing, and nothing happens.
Next one along.
Pull it again, and a little bit of water just splashes onto your chest.
Okay. I'll pull it once more to see whether that does it, and then again if not.
You pull it one more time, and yes, it hits the next notch, and the bucket slowly starts to lean. It's been doing this each time, but it hits the notch and then leans a little more, and the stream of water smacks you in the face. It smacks you in the face. It's on your chest. It goes on for about sort of a minute or two.
In that time, I try to get as clean as I can in that minute or two.
Yeah, cool. So yes, at this point you notice that the bucket on the floor is catching. Well, it's catching the water that falls on you, just so it doesn't go everywhere because you're on a metal ship. you know, it's just to catch some of the water that doesn't hit you.
Okay.
And you sort of go, huh, that's actually quite clever. You don't know what to do with that water afterwards, and frankly you don't want to, but hey. The water hitting you seems to be fairly clean. And yeah, after a few minutes you have no way of looking at yourself. So do you go back outside and put on your horrible caked coat that stinks of filth, or what?
I'm going to go back outside and carry the coat.
Okay.
I'll find somewhere to wash it in the morning.
Okay. So we have Anita waiting outside, do we not?
We do, yes.
Okay, yes. You see Zeke step back out after a few minutes and some frenzied scrubbing sounds. And he comes out. He's still got like some grey mud in his hair that's like starting to dry. He still smells a bit, like quite a bit, but it's mellow. It's a lot mellower than it was. His clothes are still like clearly sporting stains. God knows what from. You don't want to think about what was in the mud at all. You just don't. But your clothes are all. Your clothes are now better camouflaged. Should we say that?
Okay.
Possibly a little crostier. But hey, good trade-off. But yes, most of the mud is off of your face and hair. There's like little crusty bits that sit all over the place. But hey, he's dirtier than he was when you met him. He's cleaner than he was a few minutes ago. He has no way of knowing this for himself, so you might confirm it to him.
She will turn to him and go, so you managed to get a little bit more clean then?
Yeah, they've got a really nifty bucket system in there. If there's another one, you should give it a go. And he looks around for another door to maybe a separate part of the outhouse where there might be another shower.
It looks like this bloke made himself a shower. For some reason, earlier he called it his man cave. You're not entirely sure why.
I'm glad I didn't investigate the lower bucket.
Good move. So yeah, you are mostly clean. It is still nighttime. None of you have rested. One of you is braiding the hair of a dead comrade. One of you is standing watching someone shower, and the third has just almost washed himself. And Jerry is still very dirty and stinks. And he's staying outside with the coat, but he's licking the filth off his fur. Doesn't seem to like the taste. Not at all.
Are you not going to clean him?
Is that bucket on the floor?
I would want to inspect the bucket, take it out of the room into the moonlight to see what is in it.
Yeah, once you bring it out of the little wooden outhouse, you're in a very brightly lit area. Yeah, it's water. There's stuff floating in it, like scum, and there's like oil slick, like rainbows on it, and it's not clean by any stretch. It might be cleaner than Jerry though.
I will then offer it to Jerry to see whether he jumps in, because Jerry does love a bath now and then.
One of Jerry's heads looks very enthusiastic at the concept of water, like having a good bath, and like he skitters up to the side, puts like his front two paws onto it. The other head, however, stares daggers at you. It makes a sound that you've come to sort of associate with a tut from a two-headed mutant squirrel. The happier head, having seen the water, the state of it, looks less enthused. It sort of settles back down onto its hindquarters and ignores the water entirely.
All right then, 2 up a tea to enjoy the simple things in life, are we today, Jerry? And then I'll put the bucket back and head towards Gary's room.
Okay. Yeah. So, Timmy, you been braiding your dead friend's hair?
Yes, I finished braiding the dead friend's hair.
Okay.
And whilst these guys were off doing their thing, I have curled up on the mattress and am now sleeping, but cuddling the head like a teddy bear.
All right. Yeah. I think it would just be way too meta for me to make everyone else take some kind of mental endurance roll. So I'm gonna rule at this point, in the presence of this like 6-watt light bulb, they don't notice. Unless you want to go out of your way to make a perception test to notice this, you just walk in and see one of the beds has like a lump on it, and you hear like a light snore. In fact, I don't know. Does Timmy snore?
Yes, Timmy snores loudly.
I would imagine so. I would imagine if Timmy snored at all, it would be like a loud buzzsaw snore.
Like gravel in a blender.
Yeah. On occasion,
Yes.
Timmy might even wake herself.
Unlikely though, let's be honest.
Oh yeah, yeah. On occasion,
Everyone
when
else
it gets
will
really
suffer.
bad. At the height of hay fever season, when she's got a cold.
Yes.
On occasion, she wakes up and goes, "What was that?" Maybe that impulse has kept her alive. Sleep paranoia. I think I heard something growl. We should camp somewhere else. Everyone else is like, yeah, growling. Bitch. But yeah. Yes, you hear an ungodly noise, and you see a huddled bundle on the bed. At this
So
point,
Ezekiel.
you have both been awake for an ungodly amount of time. You've endured odd slapstick terrors in the gunfight. At the end of a long day, to be fair. Those beds look, well, they look horrible, but they look strangely inviting.
Anita's just going to curl up on a bed
Okay.
and instantly fall asleep.
Zeke is going to settle on top of one of the beds, and in true, not under any sort of covers, just in true outdoorsman fashion, mud-caked coats over the top, and go to sleep.
Wow. Zeke sleeps like the boys in Stalingrad. But yeah, you all doze off, which is a feat with that snoring. and the revelry and occasional cries, moans, screams, whatever outside. During the night, it's an uneventful night for the most part. There's the occasional gunshot, but where isn't there? You hear the occasional sound of someone being mugged or stabbed or in the throes of ecstasy, because let's face it, you're sleeping in a brothel. But for the most part, you all sleep through the night. You have a fairly good night. It's a hell of a lot better than sleeping on the dust at the side of a road, or on a ship in a storm, or in the engine room of a ship in a storm. Not that the sound ever bothered her, but hey. Right. So you wake up the next morning, you feel relatively refreshed. I mean, you didn't have dinner yesterday, and I don't think any of you mentioned having anything to drink that wasn't alcoholic. So you might be feeling a little sore-headed and a little bit worse for wear. But for the most part, you're doing all right. Does anyone have less than full health?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. You gain back from having slept. You gain back your endurance bonus in hit points for having slept in comfortable surroundings.
I was only missing one from that random gunshot that sailed wide, so...
But, you have a little bit of natural resilience healing there. But you didn't eat, so you don't get any bonuses. It's like, let's go somewhere where they serve people and not eat. Anyway. So you wake up in the morning, you are fucking ravenous. All of you. You are all very, very hungry.
I've been in Ooze Town for about 2 months. Would I know of anywhere to grab some breakfast?
Yeah, to be fair, this place caters for sailors, so there are always places to get food. There are always places to get drink. There's always
somewhere I will not be poisoned.
Find company. I don't think places here would necessarily poison people, because they thrive on the whole concept of repeat business. They might poison people in other people's places.
She's going to try and find Mary to see if there's any breakfast on the go.
Okay, yeah. You get up. The sun is well up in the sky at this point. It's probably about 10 in the morning by the time you all sort of stir, hop out. I mean, this is the quiet time in a brothel, understandably. Even if it is a 24-hour brothel, 10 o'clock in the morning, most people are like, you know what? I might just sleep. I might just have breakfast. I imagine there's probably someone somewhere having their end away. It's not at this end of the pub. It's not at this end of the ship, at the very least. So you wander outside. The large Beatty fellow you saw the previous evening, who told you to, in certain terms, not to come into his house and to bugger off. He's standing over one of the oil drum fires. He seems to have thrown some manner of iron wire, metal wire, sort of grill over the top, and he's cooking something. That's about as deep into that statement as you can really dig at this point. It smells all right. It's not bacon, but it smells good.
Anita's going to wander over to him and go, "All right, mate, that smells really good."
I know it does. I have it for breakfast every morning.
So what is it? Or do I not want to know?
It's flatfish. Very, very, very nutritious is flatfish. Mum used to swear by it.
Yeah, no, fair. Have you got any spare that we could possibly have? Maybe?
Well, maybe. Do you have anything in exchange for it?
I might.
I'm not against the concept of sharing some of my breakfast, but I want to be compensated.
What would you be interested in?
Well, I always find tack is a good way of exchanging values. Because, let's face it, no bugger wants to eat it.
True.
But if you have anything else, I'll consider. At this point, he just reaches down onto the grill and just like grabs a bit of this like flaky browning white charred meat, twists it and pulls, just stuffs it in his mouth and starts chewing. The texture of this, apparently a fish, is somewhere between sort of flaked tuna and pita bread. Apparently it pulls apart quite easily, but it's a bit chewy and crispy on the outside. Oh, bloody lovely.
Anita is going to reach into her bag and pull out a syringe.
Syringe, eh?
Mm.
Well, naturally, I don't use that sort of thing, but
Obviously.
But what does it do?
But this one is a stim.
A stim, you say?
Mm-hmm. Only the best.
Well, yes, but we don't have much call for sort of emergency medicines here. I mean, if for example, you know, it's not like we have the snuff shack out the back. You know, we tend to like to keep people alive.
Which is fair enough.
But there are certainly people here who might be interested in, shall we say, refreshments. Is there anything else you have in that little bag there?
She is going to pull out a purple syringe.
Purple syringe.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the colour is quite intriguing.
It is, isn't it?
Yes.
This one is quite an interesting product.
Oh yes.
Yes.
All right. May I?
You may.
And he holds it up to the light. Oh, it's almost papal purple. Ooh,
It is.
lovely.
Yes.
Annoyingly, I actually have a pen that has that in the front. Little syringe pen. That's really fun. Anyway, yeah. Yes, lovely. I mean, this will definitely get you the next fish I cook. But what is it? What does it do?
You see, you wanted recreational? That is most definitely recreational.
But yes, you see, when I share this with my friends, they need to know, you know, what it does. What does it do?
Now that is a very good question.
Yes, it's my question. What does it do?
It brings about a feeling of euphoria.
Euphoria, you say?
Mm.
Well, you could always do with a little of that. Yeah, he opens a bag that he has sitting down by the side of the oil drum, and he pulls out something that looks. It's kind of like a Dover sole, but it's about the size of a manhole cover. It's somewhere between a sole and a manta ray. And probably about twice as thick. Yes. Here you are! Hands you this fucking enormous fish.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
It's been like slightly dried, so you can literally like hold it like a plate. But yeah, you know, it's sort of on the kipper's side of things.
Pleasure doing business with you. Is there any room on the fire for us to cook this up?
We'll be in a minute, and Yeah, he pulls out a large flat-bladed knife with like a flat edge. It's somewhere between like a utility knife and a like a fucking can't remember the word. It's completely escaped me. Spatula. That's the one. It's a large combat spatula, and he just scoops this thing off of his little homemade grill, flops it onto the empty bag on top, and just starts eating it like takeaway food. And it's like, oh, lovely. Yeah. Must make sure I have this every day. Yeah. So good to get out and cook in the morning.
Absolutely.
I assume you're all too polite to mention it's almost afternoon. As he walks back to his little shack with his manhole cover size breakfast. Yes, you have a fish and you have fire.
I'm going to attempt to cook the fish.
Oh, I love these moments when I go, what can I make you roll? Because we haven't got a survival skill of any kind. I would say knowledge. This seems like a general knowledge sort of thing. You know, how long do I cook this for? When should I flip it? Or would you say this is a craft? Are you crafting this food?
No, I think I'm knowing what I'm doing.
Okay, you know what you're doing. Okay, you're not trying to do
In
anything
theory.
fancy. Yeah.
No.
Okay, so yeah, give me a knowledge.
That is a 13.
13. Yeah, you cook this up. It starts to go a bit crispy. You just sit there and watch it. You keep flipping it over and over and over until it looks like his did. You're like, yeah, that looks pretty alright. That looked pretty good. He said it looked okay. You know, I factually understand that that's what it should look like. Yes, excellent. So yeah, you cooked yourself some breakfast. You have, an extra large pizza sized flat fish, which for some reason you haven't done anything else to prepare but chuck on a fire. But I did say it had been dried, so they probably had gutted it. So
yeah,
otherwise you just have some lightly toasted guts. But yeah, the head's still on, tail's still on, fins are still on. They've just literally they've gutted it, like laid it flat, hang it out to dry. So yeah, you have essentially an unsmoked kipper to take back to your friends.
Yeah.
Large enough for you to cower behind if your enemies were to assail you. Combat kipper, if you will.
I take it back to the others.
Combat kipper. Anyway, yeah. So yes, you have made breakfast. Huzzah!
Yay!
Wow, it's amazing how much time we've managed to kill between your characters going to bed and having breakfast. Exciting adventures in the wasteland. Anyway, so yes, you've made breakfast. Huzzah! I assume, eat breakfast, all of you. And now you have the mystery of Roger's head. What are you going to do now?
So I'm going to suggest that we need to take this head over to the Salties because it looks as if he's been away from them for a while. And they might want to find the people that did this. Alternatively, if it was them that did it, they need to know that people are aware.
Okay.
So we know that there are some Salties up the river a little bit, where they come on land. Downriver.
Yeah.
Upriver. Along the river.
The Salties are downriver. Their little enclave is actually on the end of the harbour arm, so they never have to come on land. People from the land can walk out to them and trade with them.
So we can either take this poor dude's head and return it to them, at which point they may help us, or we can threaten them with it, at which point we can make them help us.
Okay.
You know the Salties better than me. What do you think?
I think think they can be persuaded.
Well, I suppose that's where Jim said we should be heading, so I'll go and deal with them.
You might want to be careful with them. They're not going to... They don't like people from land, so kind of integrating with them is a little hard. And some of them speak a bit weird. It could just be the salty air. But yeah, so we need to kind of offer them a gift or something that we can trade with them, because they're not going to want to do anything to help unless we can barter. But if that bartering is finding their friend and finding the rest of their friend, that might work.
Okay.
Well, the rest of them's out in the sea by now, isn't it?
Do they need to know that?
That is a good point.
And would they realise if it was not actually him? The rest of it?
Hopefully he's got no tattoos.
One body's as good as another, I suppose.
Timmy's knowledge of the Salties would suggest that most Salties have the name of their ship tattooed on them.
Right, okay.
And
What if
those who
that
have been
bit
on
gone
multiple
missing?
ships have like a list of names tattooed on them.
Okay.
As part of like a mark of honour.
Well,
So maybe we just need to bring the head back.
It's normally on like the left shoulder blade.
if you would share that information with us, there might come the suggestion of us procuring another salty from that ship.
Okay. We'd need to procure them very carefully, though, because we're not going to survive very long if they take us away from land. I am assuming from the way that the salties deal with people and are quite hardy, that keel hauling would not be above them.
Yeah, let's not do that.
Yeah. Keel hauling, stranding. They might even just feed you to sharks. They're also not entirely averse to drowning people. Just tying heavy shit to them and throwing them overboard.
Yeah.
They normally hold the heavy shit up afterwards, though. The heavy stuff, that's important. You can't just get heavy stuff all over the place.
But yeah, I definitely think we ought to take the head back. But we might want to make sure small furry people are kept hidden, because they're just going to see that as food.
You mean? And then, well, I suppose in the incidents of last night, my backpack would now be caked in river silt.
No, you left your backpack in the container. That's why
I
Jerry
didn't
wasn't
I?
with you.
Yeah.
He was asleep in the top flap.
I then make sure he remains in the top flap and like close and or zip it where possible.
It's not like
Give me a manipulate or something to try and calm Jerry as you zip him into a sealed bag.
I'll leave him like some fresh food, like some nuts and such.
Yeah, you're still cutting off his air supply, like for the greater part. He likes to be able to come and go. You are zipping him into a bag. You're essentially placing him within a sleeping bag and like tightening it until he can't get out.
That's a 7.
A 7. Yeah, you take 2 points of damage. You can't mitigate that at all. He just goes to town on your hand as you're trying to zip this bag up. Yeah, he
I'll
mashes
take it.
the shit out of your hand. Like the top knuckle of like one of your index fingers just looks really mashed. It looks quite horrible. You quickly bind it up with something. It's not a terrible wound, but it's bloody painful and quite distracting. I've got half a mind to give you a level of suffering, but I'm not. I'm not going to do that. It would be way funnier, but I'm not. Yeah. So yeah, your pet mutant squirrel gnashes the shit out of your hand as you try and seal him in a bag. You horrible bastard. So yes, you're resolved to see the Salties. You haven't got any other plans. No one else has come up with a better idea, or a worse idea, or any other idea at all.
Unless anyone wants to do anything here.
What sort of things do they like to barter?
Generally, like metal and oil, or anything that will keep their ships running. So they would, anything that which is metal is going to help them fix the ship. We can offer them, if you've still got medicine, then they suffer from general sort of lack of good food because they're all just eating fish and seagulls. Their diet's not great, and because they don't like coming onto land, they have to kind of eat what they have. So generally, it's
Seaweed, seagulls.
I'll say scurvy, but scurvy.
It's not unknown. But yeah, Salties basically will trade for anything of value. They're traders. They particularly value things that they can use to help them immediately.
Okay.
They don't tend to hoard things because they live on boats. What's the point in having, fuck it. What's the point in having like 50,000 legs of lamb if you're not going to eat 50,000 legs of lamb before they go off and they're just going to fill up your boat with stinking meat, for example.
Fair enough. I might have something we can trade.
Cool. So,
I think as we're sort of down on the supply front as well, as we head towards the Salty Enclave, we perhaps want to stop and procure some not tack food.
Yes, that is an excellent plan.
yes.
Tack is horrible.
Yes. Tack is disgusting, but keeps forever and contains a surprising amount of energy. So yeah, do you set off now? Do you try and talk to someone here? Madam Hooch's knocking shop has a surprising array of services available, or you could, shop around a bit. This is a port town with a sizable merchant quarter.
I think after the commotion I made yesterday, most people wouldn't be so interested in a conversation. So, so maybe towards the mercantile quarter.
Okay. Important note: do you put the coat back on?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Still caked in mud and reeking like a 10-day old corpse, but
yeah. It's also the mud on it now has it's like crispened and whitened. It's like cracked. It kind of looks like armadillo skin. It's pretty cool, but it smells horrible.
I didn't think it would so much dry as congeal with what may be in that water.
Let's put it this way: the less sedimentary aspects of what's soaked into your coat is still soaked into the fabric of your coat, and possibly now your skin. The mud that was caked on the outside has dried. It's flaking off a bit. Your coat has dandruff.
I suppose I'd dust off the dried bits first. Whatever's soaked in, but anything that will come off, I'll dust off.
You. Do you have a stick or something?
I've got a cricket bat.
You do. Cricket bat. Yeah, you chuck the coat over the railing on the side of the ship, and you beat it with your cricket bat for a bit, and an awful lot of this like dust and filth like falls off, and it kind of forms like a choking cloud of disgusting smelling dust, which you speedily move out of. Leave it to be someone else's goddamn problem. You managed to get most of this mud off, but you still look a bit it still looks a bit scaly in places. Your coat now. It's changed colour. It's definitely a muddy coat. There's no way getting around it. Some of it's really stuck in there. Anyway, yeah. So you set off going into town, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So you head off into town. People are stirring. The few pubs that don't stay open all night are just starting to reopen. People are sort of stumbling out of. I don't want to say dens of ill repute. This whole town's got a pretty bad reputation. But whorehouses. People are walking out of whorehouses. Let's just not sugarcoat it at all. Happy, slightly itchier looking people are walking out of whorehouses with much lighter wallets and bad hangovers, and heading back to whatever they were meant to be doing before they noticed a brothel. So some of them are carrying large bags full of things to sell. Some of them have sort of large, complicated-looking objects that you don't fully understand. A few of them are clearly carrying sort of collapsible market stalls. Little signs or trays of merchandise or cases, things like that. A few of them are coming out and they're setting up their little stalls outside. The first few sort of hawkers are starting to go,
So Ooze Town doesn't really get going till midday then.
Yeah, it's sort of 11:15. 11:15, the people who got lashed the previous night and splashed out on company come out and start, selling itch cream and hangover cures and greasy meat and things. It's just the way of the world, really. You could still buy all of these things inside, probably, but the guys who stand outside and grab your attention before you go in and find out it's cheaper in there, they're coming out. Yeah, they're preying on the first few people who start stumbling out drunk. Or still drunk. Who knows? But yeah. So yeah, the first few people are like, itch ointment, get a tub for only attack. Homebrewed beer. Get your homebrewed beer. Some smart ass comes along and points out, all beer is homebrewed, you idiot. Someone's trying to sell some kind of broken engine standing out the side of a brothel. There's all these like angry looking people. Angry looking women and men of rougher appearance. Hanging out, most in a great sort of a state of undress, shouting at this poor fellow who's trying to show off this contraption. It's creating a huge cloud of diesel smoke, and it's drifting into the upper floors of this brothel. And those gentlemen and ladies who were entertaining the previous evening, they want to fucking sleep. They don't want to choke in their beds, and they don't want to stink. That would kind of bugger up their lifestyle. So yeah, they're a bit angry. But yeah, you head in. The first sort of proper shops. The proper shops start a little back from the waterfront. Waterfront is mainly pubs and brothels and flop houses, things like that. But as you get away from the immediate waterfront, yeah, there are shops. There are people selling gear, people selling food. People selling all sorts of weird shit that they bought off people who didn't know what it was worth. The first shop you come across is like a curio shop, and it's just called Tom's. Just a sign outside. It's chalk on corrugated iron. It says Tom's.
Are we able, do you think, to procure some soap in here?
Well, if you were going to look for soap, here wouldn't be a bad place to try. It's not a common thing, soap.
Or at least some kind of, perfume. Anything to get rid of the smell.
Go have a look.
I'm going to go in, I think.
Okay. You stroll into this building. Almost immediately, you step through this like rough corrugated iron exterior into an almost perfectly renovated building. The floors are admittedly bare wood, but fairly clean. And there is a vast jumble of just weird stuff, odd stuff. Most of it's tidy and clean. It looks very unusual. It's small knickknacks and tubs of things and jars full of just odd pre-war objects. It all looks very, very exciting and interesting and curious, but you're not entirely sure what any of this stuff is.
Okay, so I'm going to start picking up some of these jars and opening them and just kind of smelling them to see what's in them and see if I can work it out.
Okay, yeah. Yes, you stroll over, you pick up a jar of something undoubtedly massively expensive. And before you know, a very old fellow steps out from behind a pile of books at the back. There's a little counter, a pile of books on it, and he just steps out, and he's just a wild tangle of like greying hair. He's a fairly tall fellow. He's probably about that fat. And he stumbles over. He's like, "Oh, looking at my marbles, are you? Most people think I lost my marbles years ago, but here they are. See, in this jar."
I don't suppose you could use them for washing with, could you?
Marbles? Well, I suppose. I mean, you could. Marbles are. It's kind of like a giant exfoliant, I think. Yes. Yes, you could definitely scrub yourself with marbles.
What
You've
about
hurt like the
something that
Dickens, but you could do it.
we don't want to hurt ourselves. Do you think you have anything which might make somebody maybe smell better after being in a river?
Yes. Yes, I do. Yes. And he runs off into the back. Like a half hunch. Just vanishes. And for a little while, nothing happens. And just about the time it starts to feel uncomfortable, he pops back in holding a plastic bottle. He goes, "Here!" And he thrusts it into your hands. He goes, "Here! Look at this!" And it's a bottle containing a clear liquid. A fairly large one like that.
What do we? How do we wash with this? Do you just?
How do you wash with this?
Well,
Sure?
yes.
You sure that's what you want to ask?
Well,
Sure.
Yeah. Do you need use it neat? Do you put it into water? There's no label.
Oh!
Rinse and repeat. I don't know.
Oh, I see. Yes. It is water. See?
No.
It is water.
No. We want something.
He opens it up and he waves it at you. And it smells quite nice. Yeah, actually. This must have squashing it before. It smells very nice. It does. Oh, yes. A hint of orange, pineapple, and he has no idea what any of these words mean. Hollyhocks. Lemons. Carpet. Smell.
Okay, at this point, what I do is I reach into my trench coat and I pull out Roger's head and just have a chat with it. Roger, do you believe this gentleman here is trying to sell us water to wash with? I'm sure he's got something a lot more interesting. What do you think, Roger? And I just turn the head to just face him. So it makes like this really gruesome eye contact, or not eye contact, because it's sort of slightly rotted.
Anita takes a few steps backwards.
At this point, I choose to believe that Roger's mouth just falls open. Oh, I've got a hat for him. just wait a moment. Take the. He just throws the water in your general direction, just like a low pass, and goes back into the back again. He comes out. He's got like one of those little top hats, a fascinator. He comes back out and he pops it on. He's got a little pin. Pops it on, and he just jabs the pin straight into the head. Bam! Oh, look! It looks lovely, doesn't it? Oh, it's very nice. Oh, you simply must buy it for him. Oh, look how lovely it looks.
So I think we need to.
What did you say his name was?
His name is Roger.
Roger. Hello, Roger. And he offers a hand.
Um,
After a little while, Roger doesn't shake the hand, so takes it back. Well, up to you, I suppose. I mean, yeah, it is a little dirty. Anyway, the water. Where did that go? So the hat. What do you pay me for the hat?
So what do you think the hat is worth?
Well, do you have anything unusual to add to my collection? He gestures back at his array of stupid, crazy crap.
So we have some shiny things.
Ooh, shiny things, you say?
And from the little bag of stuff that we definitely didn't steal.
Oh, it's a very nice bag as well. Ooh.
I bring out like a slightly bent but very shiny spoon.
Ooh. Oh, let me see. May I?
Yes, you can look at this, but can I look after the hat?
Yes, of course. Oh, no, you couldn't take a gentleman's hat. Oh, no. Oh, heavens above. He takes the spoon. Just a moment. Bam! And he straightens it with his face. Oh, very nice. Very, very nice. Oh, yes. Oh. She probably doesn't know it's silver. Oh, yes. I get a pretty penny for this. What's a penny? Oh well.
Whilst the old man is babbling, I'm going to pass the water gently behind my back to the others.
Okay.
I'll receive the bottle and just loom behind Timmy, bottle still in hand, like it's out of view, but like not secreted anywhere.
Okay. So you're not going to do like the super stealthy, like, I will put this inside my coat now. Because he doesn't notice. He's standing there staring at a silver spoon, debating himself the nature of currency. So, yeah. Well, yes, this will do. This will do. Yes. I do think this will do. Yes. So this will be my spoon, and that'll be his hat. And where'd the water go? I'll get you some water. And he rushes back out to the back. And he fetches
he's out of the room.
Smaller bottle. Is oh, they won't notice. Here you are. He fetches you. He hands you a much smaller bottle of water. It's quite nice. Yes. Yes. It's good. There you are. Have some water as well.
Thank you very much. And I pass that to Anita.
Anita takes it. We were after something that smells nice, but isn't water.
Smell the water. The water smells nice. It's good smelling water, yes.
Yes,
Smell it.
the water.
Smell it.
Anita smells it.
Yeah, the water actually smells really nice. It smells sort of light and fruity and pleasant. You're not sure if it's just like really, really, really well diluted squash, or like he's just put water in an old perfume bottle and sloshed it around or something. Or maybe he's just sprayed deodorant into water and just like sold it to people, like, you know, a little bit at a time for many years. But yeah, it smells good. Yeah. Apparently he's on some kind of personal crusade to make people smell better. You do realise at this point that he smells lovely. He smells very nice. He smells nice, and his shop is quite clean.
Anita's going to point out that the spoon is actually worth more than this tiny bottle of water in a hat.
But wait a minute. What about the other one? I keep... I'll throw in the pin for free. Look at the pin. Very nice pin. Oh, yes.
It is a very nice pin.
Look at the pin. No rust on that pin. Oh, little blood there.
Yeah, probably because in head.
Oh. No.
Yeah.
That discerning gentleman wouldn't hurt him. No, see? Not even... He pulls the pin out and jabs it back. See, he's not even crying out. It's perfectly comfortable.
I'm not denying that he's comfortable.
There we are. Yeah, well, I think I've done you well. Yes. Yeah.
I still think that we were after something a bit more smelly to make him smell better. And she points.
Oh.
You see our issue.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. This will never do. Never. No. Ooh. Let me. And he just steps back to behind the pile of books, and he comes back with a bucket, and he just throws it onto Zeke. The water rolls off of Zeke onto the floor and amongst all of his wonderfully well-kept ornaments. Oh God, the water, the floor's all wet. Who traipsed this water in here? Oh, I really must insist you go. And he just ushers Zeke out very politely in that way that, you know, old ladies and, you know, enraged shop owners around the world do.
Very confused as to the exchange that he's just witnessed and the fact he's now soaking wet. He's a bit ushered out of the shop. Well, I hope that worked. Otherwise, I'm going to be quite uncomfortable for nothing. How do I smell? And not to anyone in particular, or maybe a passing random stranger.
Okay, yeah. You're standing outside alone. The ladies are still inside, apparently debating the nature of the cost of a spoon in a world with no money. Yeah, you stroll to a random stranger and ask how you smell. Okay, yeah, you stroll to a random stranger. This particular random stranger seems to be wearing sort of it's like a chainmail coat made of small metal discs, and not a lot else. Sort of a tabard, large slits up the side. It's a young fellow. He has a very large oiled moustache and no other body hair that you can see. Apparently that's someone's kink here. You ask him how you smell, and he says, "You smell divine. Why don't you come with me? You look like a fine fellow."
Good to know,
yes,
but I've got some salties to see, I'm afraid.
Oh, who wants to see silly old salties when you can come with me? Come on back, come on. You know you want to. I know you want to. You know you want to. Come on.
Going to give that a miss for sure.
Oh.
Salties to see and
Well, yes. Maybe, okay. For the time.
Scuzzle to find, you know, all that kind of thing.
Yes, well, if you ever change your mind, and he breaks one of the discs off of his tunic and hands it to you, and it just has scribed into it, basically, like, someone's just got a disc off a dog collar and like scratched it with a nail, and it just has "good for one" written across it. And on the back, it just has "Bungos" written. You're like, okay, you've got a little token from Bungos.
Well, I wouldn't know it was from Bungos, but yes.
Yeah.
Well,
You don't know either of those things. I'm just telling anyone else who may see it. This is the nature of the object you've been handed by this attractive fellow.
One Bungos token.
Yeah. And he wanders up, and as he does wander away, do you keep looking at this peculiar chap, or do you get over this encounter quickly?
I think it's more a stare of bemusement than anything else.
Okay, as you stare bemused at this mustachioed chainmail boy whore, you notice him just as he walks through the crowd, he just breaks these things off and hands them to people as he crosses like the main square. And on the other side of the main square, he's basically just standing there naked with like a necklace on. And he just steps inside an establishment that has a large sign, and just seems to be mostly men standing outside it. You don't seem to see any women around it.
Okay. I look at it and go, well, Timmy says that the salties like pieces of metal. Maybe this will do some good.
Attempt to bargain with people who never come to land with a brothel token. I love it.
So I'm going to back out with Roger wearing his hat. And as I leave the door, I realise that actually Roger's hat doesn't suit him very well. And the salties don't really wear hats, not unless they're like caps. I'm just going to remove the pin and pocket it, because that could be quite useful. And I'm going to take said hat and I'm going to attach it to myself.
Almost like I was betting on you having a small fascinator top hat.
So that's now mine. Spoon well spent. Do we still have some of this water?
Yeah. He gave you 2 bottles of water.
Cool.
He gave you approximately 3 litres of water. Pleasantly scented water.
Pleasantly scented water. So I'm going to suggest that perhaps we use some of this on the slightly, I'm hoping now, slightly more soggy coat. Just to make Zeke smell that little bit better.
So as you come outside, you see Zeke standing there, looking bemused at a half-naked boy the other side of a square. It doesn't faze you that much, but yeah, Zeke seems to be a little taken aback. And as you get there, you notice an almost like oppressive smell of like aftershave. Maybe if you're in the epicenter of it, you won't notice it immediately. But coming into it from somewhere that doesn't smell like an attack in an aftershave factory, you walk close and he just smells like 20-year-olds going to a nightclub. This lingering stench of like aftershave and cheap deodorant.
Better than death.
Yeah. I mean,
it's still an improvement.
It is a marked improvement. You now smell of shit and river mud and diesel and deodorant. The deodorant's winning, but it doesn't take the undertones of excrement and diesel out of the melange. So yeah, you smell better, I believe is the correct sort of term. Yeah, you're standing there. You have your bottles of pleasantly scented water, a fascinator, and a hat pin. What were you looking for in town? Is the question you should probably be asking yourselves.
Soap.
There's something to eat. Like
Yeah.
dried rations of some description.
Dried rations of some description.
That isn't tack.
Isn't tack. Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah. You went up. There's a lovely street meat stall, a few doors up. There's a fellow who's clearly been walking around with this street meat cart all night. His eyes are heavy lidded. He's looking frankly rather pissed off. At this point, he's got a cart full of basically desiccated street meat. At this point, it's been sitting there over this little burner on his little cart all night. It's about as dry as it's going to get. His luscious, succulent kebabs have turned into jerky with sticks in.
I'll spot him from across the way, and with my now somewhat more oppressive, less offensive, hopefully, scent. Looks like you've not had a good night there, friend. How about I take those off your hands?
Right. What you got?
Sort of pat myself down and realise that what I am carrying is nominal at best. So as I eye sort of the now dried, near incinerated, hopefully not person meat, how much do I reckon it's worth?
The meat?
Like the whole lot of it.
At the beginning of the evening, it was probably worth 10, 15 tack. There was a lot of it. At this point, it might literally be worth 3 or 4. But this guy, he's not looking happy to be still out on the streets selling meat.
Sort of looking at where the sun is in the sky at the moment, and making a rough estimation of how long he's been out, I'll say to him, I'll give you a tack for the lot, and you can go home to the missus, and we'll all be happy about that, eh?
2 of them were settled.
Pushing it a bit there. I mean, who knows when someone else is gonna come along and make you an offer like this? This is a free go home for you right now. I can't see much clearer one. I mean, my friends over there are expecting.
Not chucking the drink.
Do I see what he's offering me in the way of drink?
Yes, you do.
Would I recognise it?
It appears to be a rather heat-warped plastic bottle with a dark brown liquid in.
I'll give you 2 for the meat and the drink you've got there, and we'll call it square, yeah?
Right.
I root into one of these, one of the pockets containing the pockets in my coat containing tack, and hand him 2.
He looks markedly unimpressed at the muddy tack. He takes them and he hits them against the side of his cart, and the mud flakes off and the tack doesn't, which states something about the density of this biscuit. He spits on one hand and like rubs it a bit and gets some more mud off, and he goes, "All right," and he just walks away. He leaves the cart. He leaves the drink. He leaves the meat.
I will take the cart then.
Yeah.
And wheel it back over to where Anita and Timmy are emerging from this curio shop.
As this meat seller leaves, you notice on the back of his head he has the word slave tattooed. And he has like a black metal collar on. It's not attached to anything, but you've just given a slave all the money he needs to run away. Yeah, congratulations. Yeah, as he starts running, basically. He walks casually to the end of the alleyway, looks back, and starts running. Whoever owns this Burt Street Meats cart is probably not going to be too pleased. But hey, you don't care.
What's it made of?
The cart.
Mm.
The cart is. The cart seems to be basically mainly made of metal. Like thin, shitty pieces of metal. There's like cheaply scrawled like wood signs on the side to insulate the heat, to keep it boxed in. But essentially, it kind of looks like a sink that someone's put a grill over, and then they have skewers standing up from holes they've punched in the draining board.
Okay, this sounds like it could be worthy of trading.
Yes. It's got 2 little caster wheels at the deepest part, at the end of this where the sink is. Basically, you wheel it along a bit like a dolly. You carry a heavy piece of machinery on. You basically just lift up the legs and walk with it on the wheels.
Mm-hmm.
It's somewhere between like a wheelbarrow full of fire and like a box lifting dolly.
Well, I've secured us some lunch and some refreshment for later, and it'll just sort of hold up the brown liquid and maybe sort of open the top and give it a smell.
Okay, yeah, you open it up. It smells like nothing you've encountered on this earth. It's weird. It is a profoundly unusual smell. It's sweet and somehow spicy. You have no idea what's in this. It smells okay. Like, it doesn't smell alcoholic.
Okay.
What's the texture of this liquid?
The texture of the liquid is that it's a semi-translucent brown liquid.
Okay, so it's not like sticky.
It looks a bit like that. Really. It's in colour. It's fairly similar to ale, but you notice there's no head on it, and it doesn't smell like beer.
Okay. Might want to avoid this or trade it if we can get away with it. That does not smell like it's worth drinking, if you catch my drift.
Nita would want to have a smell, see if she's come across it before.
Okay. Does he
been around a
relinquish
while.
his booty, his loot?
Yeah, I think he's more interested in the fact that he's now got a barbecue on wheels, essentially.
Okay, yeah. He relinquishes. He hands it to you. I assume you give it a good whiff.
I do.
Yeah, it's definitely dandelion and burdock.
She takes a swig and hands it back.
It was definitely dandelion and burdock at some point. Like, it's old dandelion and burdock. It was probably dandelion and burdock at roughly the same time as you were human and eat everything.
So it's not undergone the same transformation as the dying Kalar, then?
No, it hasn't undergone the same transformation as the dying Kalar. Yeah, the scourge of the north. Yeah.
She does take a good whiff and go, oh, I haven't smelt that in years.
Yeah.
Does take a quick swig and hand it back.
Um,
Yeah, there aren't even any negative effects you can see or feel. I will point out at this point that rotters aren't renowned for having a sense of taste at all. It's one of the first things they lose.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it tasted all right to you. Yeah, it's definitely smelt like you remember dandelion and burdock smelling when it had been standing out for a while and gone a bit weird. But yeah. Does anyone else care to take a drink now? You've watched someone else drink it and not die.
I think Timmy knows academically what it is, and has decided not to attempt it.
Okay.
No one should drink dandelions.
No. But yeah, you're standing in the middle of a town with a barbecue on wheels with someone else's name written on it, and a bunch of over barbecued dry meat, a brothel token. two bottles of scented water, a fascinator, and some dude's head.
To
whence do you go?
you know the salties are, don't you? He then stops and realizes that he'd never actually got Timmy's name, as in last night's escapades.
Oh yeah.
There was the incident of what are you saying? But never actually a conclusion to that as Roger made his entrance.
That's a good point. But now I can see you. Timmy realises that perhaps we haven't had the politest of start, and introduces herself and explains that yes, I have spent some time with the Salties, and I am Timmy. I fix things, not people. I unfix people, generally for the Salties. But I fix things for them. I make new things. And I obtained, let's say, information.
I would point out at this point that in your journey through town so far, you haven't asked anyone their name. You are horribly rude customers.
Yeah, standard procedure.
Yeah, I know. I just thought I'd bring it to your attention.
Well, it's taken us an episode and 2/3 to introduce ourselves to each other.
Yeah.
It's taken you an episode and 2/3 to successfully introduce yourselves to each other. Yes. So I've been making notes of every name that's been mentioned, and they've all been shot. You didn't even ask the name of the old man who was talking to you.
That's because he was weird.
Yeah?
We know who Roger is. Roger's with us. Roger has a name.
Yes, one that you shouted. You didn't ask him. It could have been anything.
I clearly asked him.
Into the street, and go, you, Rob. Yeah, what? Anyway, yes, You are strolling through town. You have your barbecue on wheels. You have a man's head. You have a fascinator and 2 bottles of scented water, and some dandelion burdock.
Towards the salties, I suppose.
To the salties.
Okay, yeah. So you head on through the main sort of thrust of the town. As you come away from like the main square again, towards the waterfront, once more. The delineation between land and pier is quite vague. The ground sort of falls away quite quickly, and you end up walking on sort of boards, and you're not sure what's standing above sea level and what's not in terms of land. You all seem to be walking on elevated pier at this point. You're not sure if you're over the sea or over beach. But gradually you notice people sort of wearing clothing in the fashion of the salties, at the very least. You start hearing a few words of the salty lingo sort of bouncing around. To those of you who haven't spent time with the salties, salty lingo is a mixture of Scandinavian languages, standard pirate talk, German, French. Basically, it's if you took the entire crew of an oil rig or a large like oil tanker and left them in isolation for 50 years, like that's what you end up with salty. They speak English with like a big old crazy accent that sounds like pirates from Somerset for some reason, but to most people it's an incomprehensible mix of heavy accents and strange phrases and nautical terms.
Okay. Would I notice of looking over the edge of the pier when land ended and sea began?
No.
No.
The edge of the pier isn't really a thing. There are holes. Some of them have boats in. Whether the boats are run aground and have become buildings or are floating on water is a sort of case by case issue.
Okay. I was hoping there would be somewhere I could wash the funk out of my coat with seawater. Which I am fully aware has come from the Funk River.
Yeah. Just because this hasn't come up so far, river water is bad. River water is bad and dangerous. Seawater is deadly. Like, you don't swim in the sea. You don't go near the sea. People don't touch the sea if they can avoid it. Like, you can survive a short swim in the sea if you really have to, but it's kind of telling in that salties don't learn to swim. It's not worth saving someone that falls in the water in deep water.
Okay.
All of the horrible shit that runs down the rivers ends up in the sea.
Where did they get the fish then?
Well, you can fish. You can pull things out of the sea. That's fine. You just don't want to go in the water yourself. You cook it and evaporate all that horrible water off. To be fair, what you're eating probably isn't helping. But yeah.
Okay. Is there anyone around that looks like they might know the way to one of the larger ship? Like, not the way to, but like someone who is on one of the larger ships that might be in charge around here.
Well, currently you're dealing with the people who like cluster around. Like, it's salties who've been kicked out of the Enclave live here. People who trade with the salties a lot. Like the people who basically the people who understand salty.
Okay.
Live here and trade with the salties who live inside the Enclave. The Enclave is kind of like a private marina sort of deal. It's a town on the water, just inside the sweep of the harbour arm. Basically, the boats are moored there, and people just walk between them on walkways. But there is a wall between it and the town. It's very obvious there's a wall. It's very there's a clearly marked gate, with guards atop it.
Okay, so because I have been near the Salties before, I'm going to make sure we've hidden Roger in my coat. And I'm going to go up to the gate. I'm going to check with one of the guards.
Hello there.
All right, love.
Hello.
So we've got some things. Would you be able to open the gate for me, love?
Depends. What you got?
Well, we might have some information for you, but I've got some landlubbers over here. Would you let them in?
Got some mud sodas.
Aye. They're all
right,
right though.
What are you doing with them?
They've been helping, and they've got some things that I'm sure you'd like to have a look at. Some of the things they've got.
Where did you learn salty?
I lived with the Salties. I built stuff for you, and
Where's your two?
And I turned around and
you turn around and you show off your tattoo, and your tattoo reads "The Beer and Beaches," which is a small launch which they use for going from a much larger ship out at sea into come trade. Yes. So the other two of you see a tattoo on Timmy's back that reads "Beer and Beaches." It's like, okay then. In you come. Open it, you bastard. Come on. And some people who were being very slow about opening a gate suddenly get a little more enthusiastic about the shore. And the gates sweep on open, and you are immediately met with a large woman in a rather ostentatious coat, carrying a very large hammer. And she says, "Timmy, I told you not to come back in here." And so speaks Salt Captain Morgan.
hey.
We shall cut to black. Oh. So, that was our game for the evening. We've managed to have a lovely little callback to our previous game, meeting your previous character. I believe it was Morgan. It was as well. Oh, I did get it right. There were 3 names, and I was like, oh shit, I forgot the right one. So yes, that was a game for the night, because this is when we end. So, I'm sorry about we didn't get very far. I kept filling the world with things we'd interact with, and you walked like 5 minutes. But hey, it all makes the campaign longer. I suppose I'll start, shall I? I think I went last time. But I'll go this time. Right. So, thank you for joining us tonight. This was Monday Nights Get Nuked. I was thirsty. I was the world, and all the people whose names didn't get asked. If you want to find me, you can find me on Twitter at thirsty_BTP. You can find me on bloodthirstypuppets.co.uk. You can find me here on Mondays and Fridays most of the time. And yeah, have fun. It's all good. I enjoyed tonight because I got to be an array of strange people with odd voices. And I'd never done that old man voice before. And I thought it was great fun. And occasionally it wandered into old lady. But hey. So, Spanners, where can we find you? Did you enjoy the game? Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I love the game. I have a hat. Ta-da! And yeah, I got to use the salty voice again. And I'm really looking forward to jumping in and out of that. and Captain Morgan. So it's like it's gone full circle. But yeah, cool. You can find me on Twitter at Spanners_BTP, and various other places for more boring stuff, but exciting things coming soon.
Okay, Lilf.
Allowed to say it yet?
I'm Lilth. You can find me at Lilth21 on Twitter. I was playing Anita, and that was really fun. I got to trade random drugs again. I have no idea what they were or what they did, which was fun. And I'll try and remember to ask names next time.
Okay, if you want. We tend to play with rude assholes who don't ask names. I think I once played a campaign where we basically went like a year and we asked like 5 people their names.
Oh, and you can also find me on a stream on Saturday nights on Kit Battlebeard's channel on Twitch.
What will you be playing?
On that game, it's Kit's World, and I play a Fire Genasi fire cleric, so I get to shoot lots of fire. It's great fun.
Doubling down on fire. Always a good
Absolutely.
Kill it with fire. Kill it with more fire.
Absolutely, yes. And maybe heal things occasionally.
Cauterize the wounds with fire.
Definitely.
Nice. And Ivor.
I've been Zeke. Find me on Twitter at Ivor_DNABC. And just remember, there is definitely no B cult, and I'm not a B cult.
There is no B cult. No.
But this has been a lot of fun. I've somehow wound up with a cart and possibly someone after me for freeing slaves, but we'll deal with that in the future.
I had to make a note of that now. Yeah. So freed his slave.
Have you let the scuttle out of the bag yet? Or is he still just like angry in there?
He's still. I think he's tired himself out from being angry and has just curled up and gone to sleep.
Needless to say, Zeke is a bad pet owner. He's a bad pet owner with an angry pet. We shall see how that knocks on next time you let him out the bag. Ask him a favour. You dropped him off a boat and then tied him up in a bag. So, yeah, next time you're like, Jerry, save me. Yes. That, I believe, is everyone and where to find us. So, with that, we should say adieu. So,
Ta-ra.
cheerio. And I will try and remember where the outro slide is. Huzzah! Everyone can still hear us, but now you can't see us. You have been watching us. Come back next week for more of us doing fantastic things.
Yay!
Oh, I know I shouldn't put much prep for this.
I can't believe we moved like 10 minutes down the road.
Oh, I can.
No, I can't. No, that's fair enough. I've got to take the stupid thing off.
I didn't actually get to my first line of prep. So, it's all there for next time. Huzzah!
Less work next time.
Yes. And for any and all of those who may still be watching, thank you! Because you didn't have to, and it's really cool. So,
Yay!
thank you, and
The
goodbye.
Pratchett chat.
Bam. Oh.
Oof.